Why, hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 151 of the Sensible Sociopath Podcast. We're live on a Friday night on YouTube. Welcome.
Yeah, 151.
If you're with us live, you can chat with us. And then please subscribe, like, comment, share with your friends, bedfellows, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to throw some introductions around, and we'll get started. First of all, second mic, we have Superfan Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Roma, our producer, is here. Roma Romerica Rifkin.
Hi, guys.
What up, Roma?
And we have a return guest. We have an author, adventurer, traveler. Wow.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear
luxury?
Yeah.
Cashmere, caviar.
We're getting
finer things.
We're getting some interference with the mics, so
A
I
little
don't.
bit of feedback.
Can you hear that? Can you hear the crackling?
Crackle, crackle.
It's not doing it
I
now,
can't
of course.
hear anything.
Yeah.
Okay, well then good. Maybe it's just on our end.
Maybe.
Here's open.
All right.
Yeah, and I believe my last time I referred to you as a psychedelic warrior. Do you recall that?
I like that.
Chaz?
I'll take it.
You liked it then, so I had a feeling you'd like it now.
I just want to say, Kat chimed in here. She goes, "Yay! I've been waiting for the day Chaz returns." And Steve S says,
I'm
"Hi, all."
back.
He's back, better than ever.
Hello.
With us-
Yeah, last time I was on the show was actually a historic moment in my career. It was the birth of B theory, which has kind of taken off.
Really?
Yeah, in
So-
a really weird way.
I want to correct that because I think the last time you were here, we talked about inner Earth. The time before that, I think we talked about the bees. And
Okay.
last time you were here,
Oh, shit.
you were purple.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
I smoked too many of these things. God damn it.
Or not enough. Either way, it wasn't the correct amount. Hello, Chaz. I'm Superfan Dan. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Dan.
Dan's
Glad to be here.
Yeah, Dan, I'm sure is very familiar with you on our show because that's why he's Superfan Dan.
That's right.
He knows it all.
Absolutely.
He's got the timestamp for everything.
Dude, it's pretty close, not going to lie.
Just about. Just about.
And so Chaz, how would you describe yourself? So I said you were, a traveler and an adventurer and are you a paranormal researcher? What's the
Well, I'm a Taurus.
All
My
right.
birth sign is
Yep, stubborn.
yeah, I like to. I'm a writer, researcher. I investigate the paranormal, though. That's a rough title. Most people kind of conjure up like Ghost Adventures, Zach Baggins when they hear paranormal investigator.
Yep,
It's a lot
cool
more
dudes.
like I get out there and do some of that nonsense too, but it's a lot more research based, a lot more. I like to think it's closer to journalism, but
Yeah, I mean, you always
that's probably just me patting myself on my back.
well, you always struck me as more of like a what's his name, John Keel type.
Mm-hmm. That definitely
Mothman
the
prophecies.
Jacques Keels, Jacques Vallée, those are the kind of researchers I try to emulate and go out in the field and investigate a case for a while. And I don't like to do the same old haunted houses that are on the TV shows every week.
I'd imagine it could get a bit boring.
Yeah, it is boring, and they haven't been successful yet, right? Because if they had been, I'd be like teaching a professor a class at a college,
Right.
I'd be not live streaming on YouTube. No offense, guys.
No,
But,
none taken.
the Ghost Adventures isn't proven the field. So yeah, I try to go to some far off places and look at cases that are a little less known and try to bring it up and share some cool stories that people might haven't heard before, and hopefully overall we can get a better picture of all that strange stuff that's going on.
Now if you were a college professor, when the children came in, would you say, "Welcome back to Ghoul"?
I would have something clever. I've actually, because I live in Gainesville, University of Florida's here.
Mhm.
We also got a big community college, and I've been thinking of just sending them resumes and being like, hey, I know you're going to need a professor of ufology pretty soon here. If you want to be ahead of the curve, I'm right here, man.
Get it on lockdown while you can.
Right?
Before
It's
some
going that way.
before some
eventually.
hack gets it on it.
And would you, I guess Florida would probably be a really good place to go for UFOs, right? I mean,
yeah, it's a pretty decent, we've got a good amount of sightings. I'd say. I think we ranked like 5th or 6th last year in number of sightings reported.
Okay.
Wow.
So it's up there.
So where are these sightings get reported to?
So there's a couple different larger organizations. There's
UFON? Yep.
Yeah, they're kind of pricks over there.
I heard that.
There's NICAP. MUFON's got some issues. It's kind of a scam. It's like the NRA for UFOs.
Wow.
Can you get a
not really
lifetime
doing
membership?
much. Yeah, exactly. You pay them a bunch of money and that's it. That's the end of the transaction.
I think that's most memberships, though. Really, you know. I mean,
Yeah, to be fair,
Clubs.
other than Amazon Prime, but
Yeah.
the rest of them.
You got your NICAP. I think they're still around collecting. I can't remember what any of them stand for these days.
Okay.
There's always some kind of clever
Acronym. Yeah.
in their acronym. Thank you.
Is it an anagram or an acronym, Stephen?
Acronym.
Okay.
An anagram, you switch
Acronym
the
is
letters
the right
around.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, you know,
Mhm.
close enough. Close enough. So you have a new book out.
Yeah. And it actually covers a case in Florida. And this was kind of a departure because I was just saying I don't like to do cases that have been covered before. But this one was one that I kind of stumbled on accidentally and realized that there was a bigger story that no one had really pieced together. And this, the original story that caught my attention was that of the Bet Sphere.
Okay.
And this was a big metal sphere that moved around on its own one spring in 1974 in Jacksonville, Florida, just north on this island called Fort George Island. And this metal sphere was discovered just lying in the grass on this island. Some different reports. Some say there was a bushfire. Some say there was a ring of dead trees. The whole story is murky throughout with differing versions. But this family found this sphere. They brought it home. And 2 weeks later, Terry, your adult son, was playing his guitar in his room. And the sphere started to ring and vibrate, started to react.
Oh.
And soon after, it started to follow people like around the house. It would roll around and move on its own power.
Creepy.
And it was strange, but the family thought it was neat. They're like, huh, isn't that weird? It must
It's
be
like-
some kind of technology or something.
like a
And
pet
they showed
orb.
The neighbors.
It's my little metal round
Yeah.
friend.
So was it made of
and
metal?
Yeah, it was made of metal.
Do they know what-
actually started treating it like a pet?
Okay.
Because it would behave, we say intelligently controlled, but it would act more like a cat or a dog. There
Okay.
was one witness, Ron Kravitz, and he was a radio host. He kind of did like the Late Show, Jacksonville Paranormal Show. He was like the local coast to coast guy.
Okay.
And so Jerry Betts, the matriarch of this family, invited him out to this house to see the sphere. Hoping that he might have some answers since he's kind of the local UFO expert.
Yeah.
And when he was at the
Gainesville.
house,
Or Jacksonville.
well, he got out to this Jacksonville. Don't mix them
Yeah,
up.
sorry. Gainesville would be pissed. Yeah,
2 hours away. Come
Yep.
on, completely different places.
Completely.
my bad. Sorry, Florida.
So Ron gets to this house, and the house itself we'll get into because it's this whole other side story. But he gets to the house and he sees this metal sphere. It's sitting in the center of this glass table, and they're talking. Kids are playing, and he's like, "Well, let's go outside and take some photos. The lights are good, that kind of stuff." So they're moving to go outside, and the sphere rolls to the edge of the table and kind of hangs off the edge in this gravity-defying way. It just kind of wiggles there. almost as if to say like, hey, don't forget about me. Like, I want to go outside where you
Wow.
guys go.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Are
a
we going
pet
outside?
dog, right?
Are we going
Yeah,
outside? It's time to
exactly.
go outside.
Do you want to go for a car ride?
My dog
Car
does
ride.
this. Yeah, the same thing. I put my shoes on. He gets, what's going on? And so local news came to investigate this sphere. Eventually, J. Allen Hynek, famed ufologist, he investigated the sphere on a couple different occasions, and the Navy got involved. They have a base right to the south of Fort George Island, Mayport Station.
And what?
And so this.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, what year was this, or years? When?
1974.
Okay, 74. Got it.
Right. And so this whole story kind of occurs over the span of a month, really. It's
okay.
Not really a long kind of encounter.
Long enough.
It blows up to national fame. Yeah, well, yeah, long enough that there's newspaper articles and things like that about it. And eventually, at the end of this month, the newspapers are saying, "Oh, it's just a regular metal sphere. They found a industrial."
Okay,
It jumps into your hand.
That was
Plugs.
it needed the plug, Chaz. It needed the
There
plug.
you go.
Plug it while it's there.
Well, tell us the name of the book.
It's a place between time and space. It's a true story about ghosts, UFOs, and Florida's strangest home.
And then, and your name is Chaz. What is it? It's got an initial after it.
C.M.P.
C.M.P. Okay.
Yeah, got to keep the government name hidden, obscured, because there's some law breaking going on in these books.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Hunter S. Thompson did the same thing, and he did all right. Right up until the end.
Exactly. And he got famous, so it should work out for me.
I think it's gonna be great.
He definitely did.
Right? I'm gonna run for sheriff one day of a small town.
You totally
always
should.
had that
in Colorado.
as my goal.
You totally
I'll lose
should.
just like him, but I'll get close.
So, Chaz, I'm curious. What does your book run for? Like, how much would it cost to actually purchase your book?
$6.99 on Amazon. For the Kindle.
It's $15.99 for the paperback, $6.66 for the Kindle.
Nice.
And then if you go to paranormalitymagazine.com, the den.paranormalitymag, you can buy from the publisher directly, and I think it's a couple bucks cheaper than Amazon.
Oh, cool.
We like to screw over
Yeah.
Bezos when we can.
But do they have free shipping?
No, but I
don't
think
blow
it
up their
still
spot.
adds up to being a little bit cheaper than the Amazon.
Cool, I like it.
Well, and it
we
puts more-
calculated it out, so you're still saving a buck or two.
Here's the
love it.
thing: if you go there, you put more money into Chaz's pocket, and you can fund his further adventures.
Oh yeah, totally.
And your
Always.
your previous book that we actually did one of our episodes with you on.
Mhm.
That was a great book. It was about you were talking about how you like to do things that had not been explored by other people a lot,
Right.
or not as well known, which I think is hard to. Is it hard to find, or is it just hard to find good stories? Like how many do you turn down before you?
It's pretty hard to find. I mean, I don't really turn down any of them. I love to go to like the places that have been done. Like I'll go and do like a live stream or hang out and do a investigation, maybe write an article or something like that.
Okay.
But the ones that I like decide to pursue at one of these full-length projects where I investigate on a repeated basis, it has to have something that gets me. And so this house had it. When I first went out there to see it, I couldn't find it, which was a good sign.
I was going to say,
Because that
perhaps
means
it's
that
not
it
ready
wasn't
to be
being
found.
investigated very often.
Exactly.
Right. And so we went out to the island and we drove up and down it, and it's a historic island. There's a plantation, it's part of a cultural historic park. The National Park Service runs it. And there's the Ribault Club, where it's this fancy, it used to be a super fancy club. Now it's kind of like a wedding venue out there. But we drove up and down the island looking for this famous house where this sphere thing occurred. Couldn't find it. And then after it was one stop on like a cross-country paranormal road trip. And then on our way back, I had used some satellite images and stuff and had talked to some other people and figured out where to find this house. and you had to do some light trespassing across the government
Light
Just
trespassing.
barrier.
light
Trespassing.
trespassing.
Well, you
Not
know,
heavy.
Florida, if it's private property, you don't want to trespass on that. You're taking your life into your hands there. But it's government property, and I pay my taxes most of the time. So, you know, I own that. It's for me, right?
Solid.
Yeah.
And
I
again,
agree.
I like to think of what I do as journalism. So
Sure.
you gotta bend the rules a little bit.
Investigatory journalism.
Exactly.
Exactly. Gonzo. I'm putting myself in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out to the house, and it was very few places do I go to, and I'm like, wow, that's actually spooky. Most places you're like, oh, cool, old building, you know,
Right.
nice spooky story. There's been like 4 or 5 places max that I've been like, that's I don't like it here, man. This is weird.
This place is
And
considered
it had that vibe.
this place is considered a castle, right?
So yeah, it's the Neff House / Bet's Castle.
Okay.
It has many different names, and that was actually one of the reasons I wanted to pursue the project. Is I very quickly found that there was a second paranormal story at this house.
Okay.
You had the Bet sphere and the Bet's case.
So the people that the sphere happened in that castle with the people that were living there at the time.
Yes.
Is there
The
there
Betts
anybody
family.
living there now?
No. So now it's abandoned.
Okay.
It sits on government land, and it's kind of fallen apart. And I actually started a petition to get it recognized as a historic landmark, so it could be potentially saved, and people can go and appreciate it.
Why don't you? Is that like a GoFundMe type thing, or like how does that work?
It's just a change.org petition right now.
Okay.
We're still in those first steps. So yeah, I can send you a thing. Here, hold on, I'll do it now while I'm talking, so you can put it in the chat.
Yeah, we can put it in the chat. We can put it in the description as well. So weren't you saying that you were going to try to, and I'm not trying to get you off track, but while I'm thinking about it, weren't you saying that were you going to try to purchase it? Or are you just trying to get it recognized?
I'd love to one day. But right now it's
Let's
already
pool
on
our
government
resources,
land.
guys.
For a castle?
Yeah,
Oh,
for a
down.
castle.
Absolutely.
I'm down.
Dude, it could be a vacation
Podcast
home
castle.
and yeah, podcast castle.
Podcastle.
Dude, Podcastle. The
That
sensible
sounds pretty
sociopath
good.
podcast.
It could be a summer home and an investigation location and a podcast
Exactly.
studio. It'd be
I
a
would-
dank.
We'll
I
fill
would
it with
totally
podcasters,
snowbird to
like one of
Florida in a
those
castle.
influencer homes.
I love it.
But yes, it's really this. It's this Trudor style building. You can see some photos of it on my Instagram page. It's got this big stone conical tower turret as the entryway.
Oh, I was
To
gonna
the
say.
left, there's this grand hall. It's like really high ceilings, ornate fireplace at the end. It opens up into like the sunroom. It's all boarded now because the glass has been shattered. But it's really gorgeous. And then the rest of the home, it had 21 rooms. It's 7 different levels. So there's all kinds of step ups and step downs, and really a bizarre constructed home.
Did the family just happen to, did that metal ball just roll down the stairs a lot, and that's why they thought it was following them?
Everyone
That
loves
was
a
the
queen.
skeptical explanation, is that the Navy, so the Navy told the family privately that, yeah, there's something weird going on here. Here are some of the x-rays. There's this internal mechanism. And then when the family refused to hand over the sphere to them permanently, they released this other thing saying, no, it's just perfectly balanced. And so it just rolls if you tap it lightly. Nothing to see here, yada, yada, which we know is not true just from photos of the ball. It's got all kinds of dings and scratches and stuff. Like clearly it's worn, so it can't be perfectly balanced.
Okay.
The Jerry Betts, actually, the matriarch of this family, she's really fascinating character. She had a real estate company and a trucking company.
Okay.
She ran for state Congress. And again, this is 1974.
Yeah, that's pretty
so
legit.
it was
Trucking and Congress for a woman?
He was a badass.
Yeah.
And when she ran, there was like an article in the Jacksonville paper about her and a couple other women who were running, and it said, "How will these women keep house if they're elected?" It was just to give you an idea
I love
of
it.
what they were dealing with.
That's hilarious.
As
Yeah.
long as they've got an apron, I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, who's gonna cook
Yeah,
dinner?
so she had a solid contract drawn up before she handed the sphere over to the Navy for them to do their tests and everything.
Oh, so she gave it to
And
the
so
Navy.
She gave it to the Navy, and she ended up giving it to J. Allen Hynek. There was this whole event at a New Orleans conference where they sent the sphere, and there was this mysterious phone call for Terry, the son, who he went with the sphere. Jerry was back home at this castle looking
Terry
home.
and Jerry?
Yeah, Terry
as
and
there's
Jerry.
no Tom.
Yeah, she was very clever with the name schemes.
I
ahead of her
like it.
time. So they went to this panel, and this panel was filled with J. Allen Hynek was the lead of it, but there was other scientists who are really famous in the paranormal field. There was
Who's J. Allen Hynek?
James Hynek was a professor of astrophysics. And he famously was recruited by the government to do Project Blue Book. And that was kind of the government's first dive into researching UFOs.
Yeah.
And basically it was to debunk them. They went out and said, yeah, this is all fake, nothing to see here. And J. Allen Hynek was working on this project, and he's like, what do you mean nothing? This, like, that's a legitimate, unexplained craft. What do you? And he kind of had this falling out afterwards and went on to investigate it on his own in the public sphere. It was the kind of first guy to legitimize the field from beyond just, kooky people like me.
And
So-
he, wanted to know how much the craft was actually worth, because Blue Book. Gotta make sure you know the value.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
It's where the term
That
came
was
from.
the real motivation.
Well, and Florida gets a bad rap as it is, Florida man, Reddit, all that fun stuff, and 4chan. But when you live in a castle in Florida, there's no everybody thinks you're insane. So if
and
you're
this
coming
is-
around with this metal ball and you live in a castle
Well,
and you live in Florida, no
Let's
one's
go
ever going to
back
believe
to
you.
the castle then, because this will tell you something about her character. So the castle has so there's the Betts case. When I was searching where to find this place, I stumbled upon a paranormal ghost hunting kind of story about this house, and it was called the Neff House, same place. And that's because this house was originally built for a man named Nettleton Neff. And get your spooky
Nettleton?
candles out, because we're Nettleton. Oh yeah, badass name. We should bring that one
Alliteration
back.
aside.
So Nettleton Neff, he was a member at the Rebalt Club in the 1920s. And the Rebalt Club was kind of the smanchy Jacksonville hangout, and it was there on Fort George Island. There was a golf course. It's where all the Gatsby parties happened.
Oh,
Ooh.
fancy.
And right.
Leonardo
and that-
DiCaprio.
one
I
of-
love it.
Mhm.
And
There you go.
Toby.
Yeah, fuck Gainesville.
I was going to say Toby was a part of that too.
Oh yeah, Toby Maguire, Dreamboat.
right. That's right.
I'm more of a talented Mr. Ripley's guy, but go ahead.
That's Damon.
So one of the guys at this club who actually designed the club was Mellon Greeley, and he's considered the dean of Jacksonville architects.
MELLON? Melon?
MELLEN.
Ah.
Oh,
Melon, like mellow.
yeah.
trying to separate.
Melon.
I see,
Melon.
I see you, Melon. I see you, Melon over
Uh-huh.
there. I see you.
Great names. Where did these names go?
These are the best
Yeah.
names.
Mellon.
From
Seriously.
Florida, apparently. That's the only place that these names come out of.
Mhm.
I'm bringing them back.
There you go.
Ulysses is going to be my other kid.
There you go.
I'm bringing all the good names back.
Mhm.
Hell yes.
So Greeley designed this club, and Nettleton Neff, he was a Chicago-based railroad executive, but he wintered in Florida. And he was a member of this club too. And he had bought this area on this hill, Mount
Okay.
Cornelia, they call it. Not really a mountain. It's only like 45 feet tall at the highest point, but it is the highest point in Duval County. Not a lot
Florida
of
mountain.
hills.
It's a Florida mountain.
Yeah, it's a Florida mountain.
It's
And
it's a mountain. It's a
since
mountain.
the house is built on it, it kind of rises and falls, and it has a basement, which again, weird in Florida. Not a lot of basements. Kind of
Gators.
rises and falls with the slopes of this hill. And yeah, Greeley, the Nettleton Neff had this kind of general idea, and Greeley drew up this separate blueprint, and they ended up deciding on this weird looking castle. And
Okay.
so he had this castle built, but the Neff family never moved in. They were hit with these tragedies. First, his wife, Nettleton's wife, was killed in a fire. The newspapers called it mysterious. She was
Okay.
at one of their Michigan properties, and some mysterious fire occurred.
Okay.
The son, their adult son, was attending Harvard, and he disappeared for 2 weeks, and they found him hanging in an apple orchard.
Holy shit.
Um,
Possibly because
supposedly-
his mother had died. He killed himself, maybe?
Yeah, well, they ruled it a suicide.
Okay.
And Nettleton Neff, he followed suit soon after and shot himself in his office.
Okay.
And so
Damn.
the boxes, their boxes were moved into the house, but the family itself never moved into this home.
So wait, boxes.
and-
What boxes are we talking about?
Just personal items.
personal
Like they were ready
okay.
to move in.
Got it,
they were,
okay.
Like the house was finished, they were ready to move in, and then they all died in this.
I was like,
Well, but
Burns?
moving is so stressful, though.
It really is.
I mean, really.
it really can take it out of you.
If I've ever wanted to kill myself,
It's during moving.
it's while we're moving.
You
Yeah.
spontaneously catch on fire, then you end up
Exactly.
hanging yourself, and then you shoot yourself in
Well-
the face. You know, it's the
Mhm.
trifecta. What do you do?
You're packing
Not
up your
moving.
The other
oily rags
element
and
here-
sparks.
Is the Great Depression, though. It's the
Okay.
same time the
See?
Great Depression hits.
That
Okay.
was
And-
the Great Depression right there. All three.
I
right
mean,
there.
I'm
No.
depressed.
Well, certainly for him.
And then you're just trying to jerk
Uh,
off in an apple orchard.
And it just, you know, you
With a
couldn't
rope
keep
around your neck.
Slip.
Yeah,
You couldn't
exactly.
keep your
Forget
footing
your
on
safe
the
word.
Yeah. Yeah, you know those little bushel baskets? Your feet will go right through them. You don't.
Damn,
who
I
knows?
got this story all wrong.
Exactly.
You were trying to get out Johnny Appleseed. Nobody was around to hear you.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So
That's a cum
this-
joke.
The Great Depression hits, and the Ribault Club, like the golf course, falls into decline. No one's doing Gatsby parties anymore.
Boo.
The island quickly becomes this like thick forested island that it is
Isn't that
today.
another
Like,
DiCaprio movie, The Island?
The island.
Yes.
It
Anyways,
really-
go ahead. Sorry.
Shutter Island.
Or that. Yeah.
I think that was it.
And I think The Island also.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he
There's
was in
2
both.
island movies.
Oh,
God
yeah.
damn.
Yeah. Doubling up.
He's all about that water movie.
Oh, also a plantation, Django. Sorry, go ahead.
Django Unchained.
There you
that's
go.
right.
Oh, the
Nobody
plantation
get over in
on
Candyland.
that island was weird. We'll get into Zephaniah Kingsley because he was a fucking character. But the Great Depression hits, and this whole island, it becomes pretty overgrown. There's still houses and stuff, pretty big properties, but it's no longer like the hangout for the elite.
And so
And
this island was like just a rich person haven. Is that pretty much what I'm getting
Right.
from it? Okay.
right, it was,
Okay.
and then the Great Depression hits, and now it's just an upper class haven.
Okay.
Very few houses. No one's going out there to do their fancy parties anymore, and it becomes part of this park system. But this house, this whole time, sits on the hill, and the forest kind of grows, and it looks like a castle, and so it soon becomes the center of like the local urban legends. You know,
Yeah.
It's-
Yep.
your kids are daring each other to go and go up in the house. People are hearing strange sounds and seeing lights and shadows, your classic haunted house stuff. And it sits that way for nearly 40 years before
Okay.
Jerry Betts hears about it, and she's actually talking about funding with a group about funding a film project, and they're like, well, you know where you could film it, that big old spooky house on Fort George Island. And she goes out there and sees it, and she's like, oh yeah, sold, I'm in. I want it. She renovates it, she adds like a wing. She does
Oh.
the whole
Damn.
thing. She adds another tower, though the portion of her that she added has been demolished. It no longer is attached to the house.
Oh, weird. Okay.
But yeah,
The house didn't want that extra wing.
No. It had enough
Well,
wings.
it was probably just because in the 70s they used a lot cheaper building materials than they did when Greeley was
That's
putting
fair.
it together out of stone. That's my personal takeaway.
It's built out
but,
of linoleum.
yeah, right. A lot of weird plaster and cheap
Particle
plywood.
board. Particle board.
It's
Yeah.
made out of
Well,
pallets and
and it-
cardboard.
There is a lot of exposed asbestos in there if you go
Ooh,
inside.
Gross.
So,
Yeah.
Just breathe in that swamp air, that Florida swamp air.
Oh yeah. That's how you know you're alive.
Yeah.
Is that blood? Well, at least I'm bleeding.
Now-
So yeah, she was a bit of a character. She bought the house specifically because it was weird, you know.
Do you know how much she bought
kinda
it
gives
for?
I don't know.
Okay.
That would be a good piece of information, but
Yeah.
probably way more affordable than it is. Anything is today, God damn it. Florida real estate, don't get me started.
Yeah. Sure.
I've heard from a reliable source that at least 1 bedroom places out there for an apartment, and that's kind of the shitty part of towns, is 1,500, and that's like roach infested and shit.
Oh yeah, I'm priced out of my hometown in Sarasota. I can't live down there.
Damn.
I don't have $3,000 for rent. It's not a place I can live.
Yep.
It's insane.
That's where you might as well make your house out of pallets and cardboard.
Right?
At least
I'm
then
gonna
it'd be affordable.
Believe me, I looked up the squatter laws to see if I could like just take over the house.
Yeah.
Dude, that
There
would
was,
be
like, a way I could
amazing.
Just start living there, and then they just have to give it to me.
Well, and if people come around, you just act like a haunted,
Yeah.
spooky ghost.
Yeah.
And then it's an
Ooh,
episode of
scare 'em out of
Scooby-Doo.
there.
Some
idea.
creepy, eccentric, you know.
Yeah.
Soon as guy shows up with a stoner, his redheaded girlfriend, their nerdy little brunette, and
A dog that talks.
It's over, man. I'm
a,
fucked.
And an adult man who wears a neckerchief.
a freaking yeah, you get that big dog in there, and then the dude shows up in the neckerchief.
Mhm.
You got to come up with something elaborate because he's gonna throw some traps in there to try and capture you, and you don't want to have to
No,
admit
that's
that
when I just stand my ground.
the meddling
Oh, yes.
kids.
The stand your ground
Just
laws of
those
Florida.
fuckers.
Well,
I know when I'm beat.
that's right. Yeah, there's a lot of holes dug out here.
Now we go back to the Scooby-Doo murder files.
Well, you just feed them to the alligators or crocodiles or whatever they have.
There you go.
I think it's gators in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
It is gators. We do get some crocodiles in the Everglades, though. Some escaped
Dude, that
pets
shit's
that
scary.
are
They're
persistent.
water dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Not to
Well,
derail.
the alligators don't really fuck with you. The crocodiles will like seek you out. They'll,
Okay.
come after your ass. They're
Good
the mean
to
ones.
know.
Alligators, if you're bigger than them, they'll be like, all right, I'm not gonna. Like,
Good-
they're not fighting.
So
they can if they want to, but they for the most part will leave you alone.
What if it's a super jacked alligator, though, and is bigger than me?
he's gonna
Then,
eat
then
you.
he'll take. Yeah, then he's going for your ass.
All roided up.
Definitely.
Probably eats a
Okay.
lot of
Oh yeah,
chicken.
they're completely size based.
So back to the castle. So this is a castle on an island, correct?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I mean, how big is the island? Does it have like a drawbridge and a moat or whatever? Like I want it to have that.
Oh,
So-
yes, please.
No, so it's cornered on one side by the Atlantic, but it's an inland island. So the
Oh.
other side is the St. Johns River, and then the rest of it branches off into these estuaries that it's just marshland for like a few miles, uninhabited.
So it's
So
been hit.
it is kind of
It's been hit
what's
by
that?
hurricanes though.
oh
right?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
And when we did our overnight investigation, we tried out some weird ghost technology and stuff like that. But this lightning storm came in right after we left the house and just blew up the whole air, like struck the whole area around the castle. The next morning smelled of ozone because it was just this
Really?
massive electrical storm.
Did
Holy
you
Oh,
play
yeah, it's-
Thunderstruck by AC/DC at that time?
Oh, at that time it was 4 a.m. and we were huddled in our tent just
Perfect
praying to
time.
make it. It was rough.
You were in
Yeah.
a tent when that happened? That's crazy.
Uh-huh. No, it was an interesting place, and it was my girlfriend, very skeptical, doesn't really believe in any of the paranormal stuff.
You guys
She
are
wouldn't go in
perfect.
the house to investigate. she she was freaked out. She's like, I'm not going in there.
So
So
does she?
you went in there, correct?
Mhm.
And did
On
you
several different occasions.
and
Yeah.
have you had any experiences while in there?
So the weirdest thing, I would say, I had been to the house 3 or 4 times, and then on this, I think it was the 4th time, I'm doing my rounds, I'm going through all the rooms, and I hadn't really experienced anything. It's just a really spooky looking house. It's abandoned, real dark in
Sure.
there. It looks like you're wandering around a medieval castle. Yeah, it's just spooky. But nothing like no goblins jumping out at me or anything like that.
Okay.
But I'm walking around and I'm streaming it to one of my colleagues at the magazine I write for, and we're talking about it and we're going over the story and stuff like that. And I go to the 2nd story tower room, kind of like the kind of center of the house, and I'm standing there. I'm standing there, and I'm looking back out in the hallway, and I see this door, and it's in the middle of the wall, 6 feet up off the ground. There's no steps. There's no like ledge to it. It's in the middle of the wall.
Oh, like
And
Winchester Mansion shit.
yeah, and I had never seen it before. I was
Oh,
like, what the
weird.
fuck? I've been there 3 times. I had stand in that exact same spot, and I had never noticed it before. And it was super bizarre. And I went home and
how
found
could
on
you
the
miss
online
that, you know?
blueprints.
It's like, how
Well,
could you
it's
miss
2
that?
ornate double doors. It's like not
6 feet
even
off the
Oh,
ground.
shit.
just in the middle of it. And yeah, it's very similar to the Winchester house. I kind of use that. It's a mini version almost, where
Okay.
there's just a lot of strange features. And I don't know how much of that has to do with, the portions of the house that were torn down and things like that. But that room it's just bizarre. There's no ladder or anything.
I was
There's
gonna
no,
say, did
like,
you get into it?
So when I did my overnight investigation, there was this wooden horse, one of those like construction ones, and it was kind of pulled up to it. So
Yeah.
you could kind of like crawl up and get in there.
Okay.
And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going for it. And I lean on this wooden horse and it starts going through the floor, like it cracks through the
Oh,
wooden floor a
no.
little bit. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not doing that. Because I
And
could have
that's how he
probably gotten
died.
up.
Mhm.
But if I jumped back down, I think I would have went straight through that floor.
Turns out there was a portal to hell under that
It
floor.
was a trick. They were trying to fucking get my ass.
So was
Spirit
this-
me away.
Yeah. So was this the last time you had gone in there?
So the room time was not the last time, and it was there again when I went back the next couple times.
Okay. The
So
reason-
it is a real room.
Okay. The reason I asked
Um,
that is I was actually listening to a paranormal podcast recently, and it was kind of one of those ones where you like call in and tell your stories. And
mhm.
somebody had called in and said when they were kids, they lived in this house that was very haunted, and I don't remember if they had a vision or a dream or they heard a voice or whatever, but I think they had a dream that there was a window in the back of their parents' walk-in closet. So he goes to investigate and there's a window and that they had never seen before. And then he like tells his parents or something, or he had gone back to investigate and it wasn't there. And his parents, it wasn't there. And then him and his brother went there one time to investigate and it was there. And and
Oh,
so this
shit.
window would like disappear and
Pop up
reappear.
and
Yes, like super weird. I guess there had been a window there at one point, and then it had been covered up, but yet, and he didn't know that, but yet he could see it at times. Him and his brother could see it at times as a kid, and then not at other.
Mhm.
So when he said that, I was like, wait, I've heard this before.
Yeah, it's something that pops up. It's definitely strange. And again, I'm not sure about that room because there's blueprints available for the house online, and that room's not on the blueprints.
Interesting.
But I could also see it. It's not like an impossible room either. Like it definitely, there's like a space there. You know what I mean? It's not like you go to the wall and there's like, it's that thin. There's no space for a room to be there.
So did you ever
Like,
get
I
into
think
it?
It's attic access. No, I haven't been into it. I think I need at least someone there to make sure I'm not going to die when I go up in there. I need some kind of backup. And I try to. It's amazing how many of these ghost hunting bros are like, oh, you got a trespass. I can't go. I'm sorry. Literally dozens of people are like, nope, can't do it. Sorry. And I'm like,
that's-
well,
that's where the
you'll like
sphere
battle
lived, I think.
demons, right?
Right.
You'll battle demons.
You can't
but
battle the
you're
cops,
not
though.
gonna. Nope. Not gonna
Can't
risk it.
can't
Not
spend the
even
night in
slightest.
jail though. God forbid.
Well,
And I'm like, it's journalism. We're here for journalism. Nope. Sorry, man. This is just a hobby.
And it's
So-
ironic. It's
God.
ironic that this episode is actually sponsored by the Little Giant Stepladder. You can bend it into several shapes, either a straight ladder that you lean against, or a what's it, the 2L shape, or
It's
or a
like
cave
a
shape.
monkey
If
bars,
I had
right?
only had my little step ladder,
I'm just
I
saying,
would've
Little
been able to
Giant. Yeah.
solve
the
this
little-
mystery.
The Little Giant Stepladder, soon to be found on the Sensible Sociopath Podcast.
Absolutely.
So-
Branding.
So you go there, you see this room that you've never seen before, which I really feel like you should have seen before. And that seems really weird to
Yeah,
me.
no, it's still to this day, it's bizarre. Like if I went back one time and it just wasn't there, like I'd
You
like,
wouldn't
yeah,
be surprised.
Okay. Yeah, that would kind of just fit in.
Wait, it's
Um,
interesting. It's like the Amityville Horror. They had that like crawl space in the basement, and they're like, it just radiated evil. And I think it was painted red or something really creepy.
Yeah.
It feels
Something
like
spooky,
that.
uh-huh.
Yeah, it feels
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah, well, there were rumors for a long time that the house had there was a secret tunnel because
Okay.
that it goes into the mountain.
It's like
and stuff
Epstein
that.
Island.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's kind of got these rumors around it. And
Yeah.
again, it's tough to say. There was some dude on one newspaper article is quoted as like telling Jerry Betts, like, go look at the city records and you'll like find out something strange about this house. Like
Okay.
he's like suggesting this thing. So I don't know. The basement is pretty inaccessible. It's just pretty much a pile of refuse, just sharp sticks and whatever.
Well, I wonder if it's been flooded
so-
by hurricanes
So surprisingly, there doesn't seem to be much water
damage.
inside the home. There's a pool on the outside, and that was actually one of the weird things because we were investigating, in the rainy season. It rained every afternoon, but on some of our trips, we would go back, and the pool would be drained. It would be lower.
Okay.
And that's super bizarre, especially when you consider some of the reports around these metal UFO spheres. There's dozens of reports of them stealing water from tanks,
I have
draining
never heard that.
cisterns. Oh yeah, it's this really specific detail that most people don't really equate with UFOs.
I mean,
but even in that,
I was just gonna
Go
say,
ahead.
unless there's a crack in it somehow, and then it's draining that way, but also it's so humid there, and the ground.
there's no, yeah, and there's no let out. You can't see any, there's no mud or pools or anything like that.
Okay.
It's bizarre. Again, when you're around the house, you're like, oh man, this is weird.
So you
it
said-
just has that feeling about it.
So you said that there is UFO phenomenon around this place.
So not only did the sphere occur, so the haunted house, then they have this weird sphere thing occur. The Betts family eventually moves out in the 80s, and the house just goes back to being empty.
Okay.
The Park Service uses it for a little bit. There's some archaeologists who are housed there for like a month or two while they're doing some kind of project on the island, but it falls into decline and it becomes the dilapidated building it is today.
Dilapidated
but-
castle.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. It's straight
the
out of a horror
Sphere's
movie because you're
castle
walking
now.
in the woods and then there's a fucking castle. It looks like it should be in Bavaria. It's pretty weird.
Now what? Now the Seminole Indians, they were the tribe that was around that area, right?
So it was actually the Timucuan.
Of course. How could I make that mistake?
Timucua.
Gainesville was the
tribe.
Seminoles.
You were off by just a
yeah.
letter.
Hmm.
Well, the Timucua ended up kind of merging with the Seminoles later on.
Well, we all
they
know,
kind of
yeah.
took the brunt of the disease and stuff from the Spanish. But they occupied that island for thousands of years
Okay.
before Jean Ribault showed up, the French explorer.
Okay.
And he actually set up a fort in that area. We don't know exactly where it was. We've never discovered the exact location of Fort Caroline.
Yet.
But they were, what's that?
I was gonna say yet. You haven't discovered it
Yes.
yet.
Yes.
You'll
But
find
Mount
it.
Cornelia is a good bet because it's the highest point. You know, that's where you would want to build your fort.
Sure.
So they were actually massacred by the Spanish, who had set up a fort 45 miles to the south at St. Augustine.
Okay.
And if they had won that battle, it's actually a very interesting story. The Spanish forces were marching north over land, and Jean Ribault had got all of his cannons and French soldiers, and they were sailing south at the exact same time they were crossing each other. And a hurricane hit. And the Spanish were able to camp through this hurricane and you know, wait it out. But the French got blown super far south, way past St. Augustine. They got shipwrecked, lost all of their guns and cannons.
The fucking
and so
French.
The Spanish showed up to an unarmed fort. Everyone there was pretty much civilians. Killed all those dudes. And then they marched all the way back to St. Augustine, and then a little further south, and caught the French before the French got to St. Augustine and massacred them there again.
Jesus.
And both of these locations have all kinds of ghostly legends associated with those massacres.
I'm sure.
Do you believe in those? Do you think that you know, because like a lot of places, like what was it? Was it Poltergeist? That was the Indian burial ground.
Yeah.
House was built on an Indian burial
That's
ground.
definitely. It's got all of those. The island has all of the cliches. It's got the Native American burial grounds. There's a lost slave burial ground from when it was a plantation. No one's really sure exactly where it was. Supposedly marked out by these posts on trees, but they believe the trees have overgrown the posts, so no one knows exactly where it was.
Okay.
And again, it's got your colonial ghosts. It got your Native American ghosts. It has
White
this
trash
legend
ghosts.
of a black dog, a lady in white,
Florida man ghosts.
Yeah.
It's
Hold
got
my
all
beer
the
ghosts.
ghostly legends, including the ghostly light spheres, which are often nowadays often associated with UFOs.
Well,
And of course,
when the metal spheres soak up all of the water, that's when they become the light spheres, right? No,
well,
that's not
potentially,
probably, but
potentially,
maybe that's
you might
their
be onto
evolution.
something there.
That might be their
Well, there
evolution,
is-
you know.
Or the rust
There is
sphere.
a theory that they're and this is kind of like that Jordan Peele Nope, but they're the idea that they're sentient creatures and not like metallic things.
Yeah.
And that's
Spoilers.
the idea that they're plasma based. So sometimes they're liquid, sometimes they're gas,
Like the
sometimes they're
T-1000.
solid.
Yeah.
Nice.
Exactly.
Yes,
Terminator.
yes.
Mhm.
100%.
That's what they're made out of. That
Robert
same
Patrick.
goo
You know,
shit.
I just want to say it's interesting
Have you
how
seen this boy?
yeah. It's interesting how often paranormal things get attributed to non-paranormal movies. And one of the things you hear about, like cloaking or like invisibility, and a lot of times you'll hear like, and actually I had a
Predator.
yes, I had a dream one time that but the way I described this dream, which was kind of lucid, but I always say predator, and I've heard so many stories. People, they have to, because you have to describe it through a movie, you know. So T-1000, that makes sense, you know, or Predator or whatever.
Yeah,
Well,
if it's a
I'm a big
90s
fan
movie
of-
reference or 80s, 90s.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid.
If it's a
today.
Schwarzenegger movie, I got it, pal.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Or Craig T. Nelson
Well, I
in
mean-
Poltergeist.
The whole of simulation theory, and you've got like real smart professors and stuff. It's the Matrix. We're
It's the
arguing about the Matrix.
Yes. Yep.
And you know, I'm actually a big fan of that concept, not because I think we live in a simulation, but I think it's because it is the best language we have to describe this stuff.
I mean,
It's
possibly
the best framework we've got.
possibly. Well, I mean, if you're on the Christian side of spiritual, I mean, some people have attributed to like the ultimate programmer. God is the ultimate programmer, and this is a
Right.
simulation.
Right. Well,
Okay.
I
I
think
hadn't heard that, but
I like to
okay.
think of the paranormal, where we're at now. We're like the alchemists to what will one day be chemists. You
Okay.
know,
Okay.
and the alchemists, they were making up weird words and mixing strange sludges in their basements and castles and shit.
To make
That's what it
gold.
was.
Oh, I thought it was
But
meth,
now
but
those,
okay.
yeah, but now those made up words, right, are like helium, like it's a real thing, and we can
Sure.
picture it in our
It's
head,
actual
and it has those
science.
right. It's science.
Science.
And so I think when we are looking at the paranormal, to have logical frameworks like simulation theory and stuff like that is really helpful.
Sure.
Sometimes the other ones, the biblical frameworks and shit, have been the ones holding us back. So I think, yeah, simulation's a good step forward.
I feel like
it's not necessarily the answer, but we're making steps. We're understanding it better.
Absolutely. And I feel like biblically, there's a lot of good stepping stones to start from. So these things are recorded, and there's a lot of really interesting stuff. I don't know if you've ever gotten into the Nephilim or the, fallen angels or giants or whatever. It's super interesting stuff. And so if you kind of start there, or even if you get into weird stuff, I mean, Bigfoot or Dogman or whatever it is, the giants that have supposedly been seen in current, time frames, history, you can kind of trace it back through the Bible, which is I think it's really cool.
Well, and I think
gives
it allows us to have some whimsical, nature to us, because if you're just completely like objective, cut and dry, there's no
what
mystery
you see is what
to
you
life.
get.
Yeah, exactly. If you just take things for face
I think
value,
that's spot on.
Yeah,
it's functional, and I think that's what a lot of like atheist, skeptical people don't realize, is they don't see that function. But it's absolutely functional, and in the paranormal, it can be functionally good or it can be functionally bad. And I think I like to use the skinwalker mythology that's kind of developed recently. Because you have the traditional skinwalkers, which
so
is
it
the
hasn't developed well, maybe in white culture. I mean, if you go into native culture, I mean, it's been there forever.
Oh, between Wendigos and skinwalkers?
Exactly.
Forget about it.
The current internet skinwalkers, totally different than those legends, right? It's always that weird deer, demorphed, kind of strange, bovine looking, bizarre animal creature.
Kind of like the Krampus.
And I believe that's because you have a lot of people out there who don't have any framework, right? They don't believe in UFOs. They don't believe in God. They don't believe
Bigfoot.
in anything. So they see something paranormal and their minds put in this situation where they're like, well, I can't process what that is. We're in the woods. It must be some kind of animal thing. So it has these animal traits, but
that's fair.
It's not an animal, so it's got to show you that it's not an animal, and then it just perceives this. It's dangerous. That's the overall kind of message.
Yeah.
Right. Something freaky. It looks like AI generated freaky art.
Sure.
It scares people away.
Anything that we don't understand has definitely got to be dangerous. I mean, at least amongst the masses,
like women.
Right. all things that most people don't understand or don't find the ability to actually try and comprehend, it's immediately considered as a threat.
A threat, absolutely.
Right.
But we're programmed that way.
Right.
We're programmed that way. And, that's the same thing with aliens, the same thing. But, even if you look at like ancient, like Egyptian, culturally, there are so many human hybrids with, animal faces
humanoids.
and stuff. Humanoids, exactly,
Centaurs, there's
dog face boy,
minotaurs,
bearded women,
elephant man,
all the tars,
all the
tars,
guitars.
But and so if you have that religious framework, you're probably going to go through that experience, and you'll probably see more of a satyr, more of a goat kind of creature, because you have that framework. It's a demon. That's what a demon looks like.
Yep, 100%.
Right. And there's a really interesting study from Namibia in South Africa where they try to it's this color test, this weird color sight test. 9 circles, all of them are blue, one of them's green, and all of them are green, one of them's blue. And this tribe in Namibia, they were like, I don't know, maybe that one's the blue one. They couldn't really figure it out. Then they would show them 9 circles, and they're all green. Like, if you or I looked at every single one of those circles, same shade of green, one of them is one shade different, just
Okay.
like the slightest thing
Yeah.
different. And every one of those tribes people could pick it out. It was like, oh, that's the circle.
Interesting.
That's the one. That one's different. That one's different.
Okay.
And it's understanding, and we're slowly kind of coming to it, that reality is only halfway there without us. We kind of materialize it.
Very much
The
perception.
particles, right? The particles aren't physical until they're being perceived.
Exactly.
Well,
And
they're working on it, and I saw that they were doing this with a type of shoe. Like a while ago,
Yeah.
there was a shoe where everybody was like, "No, this is orange," and you know, half the people who looked at the shoe was like, "Yeah, it's orange," but then everybody else was like,
Yep.
"No, it's blue."
I think it was Little Nas X.
Like what's wrong with you?
Well,
this
they
is
had
this is blue. How is this orange to you, but it's blue to me? That doesn't make any
I
sense.
remember the dress.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say the
remember that one?
dress, the blue and gold and the gold and black or
Yeah.
whatever it was. But so okay, so let's rewind. And so you're talking about, so you wrote a whole book kind of dedicated to this place, amongst
Mhm.
other things. What inspired you to write this book? Because you go in there, it's creepy, right? You find the weird
Mhm.
doors, there's a sphere, there's lights associated with it. But what made you say, like, wow, this is worthy of a book?
Well, one of the first thing was unifying the two cases, the ghost case and the UFO case, because I think now the paranormal field is kind of in a position where we can recognize that something's going on between those.
It's
two
connected.
things. Like that, right? It's not just a coincidence that all this weird, because lots of haunting stuff it's very time space when you think about it, right?
Sure.
Now that we have this new framework to perceive it under, it's things teleporting, it's things moving on their own, strange voices being generated from nowhere.
Yes.
It's the same kind of stuff that happens in time travel movies, right?
Sure.
It's similar to these reality bending side effects that seem to accompany things like UFOs.
Sure.
Things like Bigfoot too, and the stranger cases as well, but specifically UFOs. The other thing was that kind of drew my attention to the case was those famous Navy videos.
Okay.
And this is an interesting point that it's still boggles my mind that I'm the guy bringing it up, because it seems kind of obvious that so you have those famous videos, the 3 videos that were released in 2019 by
Are
To the
these-
Stars Academy.
That's Faber, right?
Yeah, so Favors, that's the Tic Tac video. That
The
one was
Tic Tac
filmed
video,
in
yes.
2004.
Okay.
Okay.
That was on the West Coast. The other 2, the Gimbal and the Go Fast, those were filmed in 2015. They were filmed by crews running a training exercise off of the USS Roosevelt, which was stationed at Mayport Station in Jacksonville, Florida at the time. And
Fuck you, Gainesville.
the Jacksonville, come on.
No, I said
You're
fuck
mixing
you,
them up.
Gainesville.
No, he didn't
Yeah.
stutter. He didn't stutter.
So it was stationed, and it was, it was out in the ocean doing these exercises, but that's where it was stationed, in this area. And on that day, they filmed the Gimbal, and that's the black saucer-looking craft. It's kind of the face of the videos, and that one is, this really bizarre saucer, and it kind of gets
Yeah.
the most attention. But the other one is the Go Fast video, shows a metal sphere, and it's hauling ass right over the ocean, and it's heading in the direction of Fort George Island. It's only a few miles from the same location that 70 or 40 years ago, in the 70s, the U.S. Navy hands-on investigated one of these metal spheres. They were poking at it, testing it in the lab. They were very hands-on. And so I went and I looked into Mayport Station and discovered that they had had a couple prior UFO incidents before the Bet sphere, and they flew jets. The base was put on full alarm. The people who witnessed this crap, they were given the hush down. They were like, hey, you don't talk about this. You're never going to bring this up. You didn't see anything. This station had a history of UFOs before the Bet sphere. after the Bet Sphere, they continued to have these UFO encounters, and then they just so happened to, in 2015, manage to record one of these things flying by accident. It seems to be a pretty strange story. I don't know exactly what it means, but it's certainly relevant information, and all of the discussion and debates that people are having over these videos.
Yeah.
Something that should be addressed, should be brought up. What about the other sphere you looked at? Yeah, so that was one of those weird, like, okay, so this is not only a story, a big picture people haven't been seeing, but it's a story that's continuing. It's not over. The spheres are still hanging around the island. They're not gone.
Well, and how did she know that they gave back the sphere? They could have just spray painted a basketball and given it to her.
Well, how big was
it's
the
funny
sphere?
You brought that up, because Jerry Betts actually was of the opinion that someone had messed with the sphere. And there's theories that it was J. Allen Hynek. Sorry, I'm moving for the viewers. Camera's gone. Gotta get the computer charger.
Well, we can still hear you, thankfully.
Yeah.
So hold on 1 second. So Kat says, didn't the Navy just come out and say they couldn't release any more UFO documents for quote unquote safety or something? And then she says, quote unquote, harm nation security. That's what they said. Do you know anything about that?
National security. Yeah,
that must be national. Yeah,
this is something that's been coming out recently. In regards to the videos and things like that. They're definitely playing up it's aliens and they're gonna shoot us, so we gotta spend more money on the military. That is definitely the message.
Okay, I was gonna say, do you find that suspicious? Like all of a sudden, like now we have this like extraterrestrial threat, and so now we have a new enemy, because there's always a new enemy, right? Right. You know, I mean, it's COVID, it's global warming, it's whatever.
Florida,
it's Florida man. Yeah. There's always a new enemy.
But I thought that they released information about the last was it June 2020 or was it 2021 when they said that there was a whole bunch of stuff about what do they call them? It wasn't quite UFOs. It was
UAPs.
UAPs, right? But
yes.
weren't they releasing information about the fact that shit was actually real? And then of course another variant came out, and then there was another trial. So
and then Epstein,
and then Epstein, right? And so it was, and then Tiger King 2 or whatever it was. It was just a whole bunch of other stuff.
The McRib came back.
Yeah, the McRib mysteriously came back out of nowhere from the fifth dimension.
You guys are saying that as jokes, but I literally just came from a show where they were like, they released Stranger Things to distract you from QAnon. Like they were saying it and they were being serious. So
it's a good show. Yeah,
it's true though. It's all true though.
There's with so many distractions, So here's what I'm saying. So I want you to finish this thought, but I also want to touch on the bees real quick. We're coming up to the end of the show. We could go over if we're down for that. And if he has time. Yeah, I
got time.
I want to hit the bees.
I got time for the bees.
Okay.
Time for the bees.
All right.
I want to see.
Let's talk about the bees.
Okay, yoga pants, another distraction. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the bees is important, especially when we are considering these Navy UFO videos.
So let's hold on. Let's recap. Are you going to go into the bees? If you're going to go into the bees, I want to recap what had happened prior to this that brought up the bees and kind of sent you on, because you had a bees story and Steve had a bees story, and then it apparently it's continued on.
Yes, people have loved the bee theory. It has been taking off in a weird corner of
Steve, can you recap shortly what
podcast world?
Yeah. So we were talking last time, and I believe you were telling a story from Morocco or Egypt or somewhere.
It was Morocco, yes.
Yeah.
Or Egypt, same place.
Where you met an older gentleman who took you under his wing to his palace. But just
that
a
was
dumb
into
old
his wing, not under the wing.
Things?
Into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like the girl from Aladdin. had
Dance
those
from the
pants on.
Seven Veils.
He had a lot of Pfizer bottles around and different oils, scented oils.
Pfizer.
But anyways, let's not.
Hookah pipes and everything.
Yes. So I had a friend that.
Hold on. So your previous book, and name your previous book.
Yeah, so that was Paranormal Expeditions, Hunt for the Friendship.
Hunt for the Friendship.
In that book, I wrote just a little paragraph,
which we
just
read.
like a side
and
thought,
both
yes.
picked up. Both of us picked this up and said, "Dude, bees."
Because I had mentioned this story previously to
Yes.
Roma and other people.
Right, because this guy in Morocco, he said his dad worked for the CIA and that he knew UFO pilots, and that I could get you a ride on UFO, no problem. And that never materialized, but there was some weird stuff about him that made his story somewhat believable. And I thought that was just an interesting story, and I was looking into the idea that Nazis had UFOs and things like that, and I just tossed it in there like, maybe it was, if it is bees, then sure, the Nazis could have done it. It's not that complicated. Anyone could build a UFO.
So because he was attributing bees to UFOs, right? Or vice versa.
Right.
Like,
he said that bees, they reverse engineered bees.
Okay.
Anti-gravity chamber in their thorax is what he said.
Okay. Yes.
And that's the concept that UFOs use to fly.
So we read that book, and then I was like, dude, did you read the part about the bees?
Mm-hmm.
Because he has a story. So what's your story?
Well, and I'd already booked, checked it off because I wanted to talk to you about it. And I think then on that date we had talked about how bumblebees are not supposed to be able to fly, and so we were thinking probably that's what it was, is they're aerodynamically not gonna fly. But so I had a friend, have a friend. That I used to play golf with a lot, and so we became close. He was a lawyer and had been worked for like attorney generals and things like that, and been pretty
legit.
Yeah, very very. He was a lieutenant attorney general, and so he had a badge and all that shit. And his father, they had like 8 kids in the family, and so I'm sure he didn't know his father super well, but apparently his father worked for the government and was a man in black. And he, on his deathbed, my friend said to his father, just tell us, because he would never divulge any information to anyone, even his family. And before he died, the only statement he would say about the work that he had done for years and years and years was, think about bees. And that's it. That's the only thing he was able to share with me. And
so we say this to you, and it's a little bit of a mind fuck, right?
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah,
oh,
it
shit.
really fucked me up. I was like, because it's almost the exact same, character, right? It's that shadowy CIA. You never really know. Government.
Keel.
Who knows? Who knows, right?
So you continue to explore it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I again, there was some scientific articles and stuff about some weird stuff about bee flights and how they're able to carry pollen and use less energy. There's some weird mysteries about bees. But when I went to the weird sources, I discovered this website, KeelyNet. And the guy who ran this, he was obsessed with all kinds of like free energy devices. Like there's the dude in Brazil who like made a motorcycle that runs on water. Who died mysteriously.
I was going to say the U.S. government killed him.
Yeah. The Keely, the guy the website's named after, was one of these like turn of the century dudes who had this new system of energy. And look, they're cutting out my feed. They're fucking with us. They're tapping in. They're shutting down bee theory.
The NSA.
No, you're still here, man. You're still here. Don't stop talking.
Not yet.
Even if they cut out the video, don't stop talking.
And so Keely was a dude who
that's kind of weird.
Energy device.
You see how he's glitching?
That's bizarre. Here, let me see if I can. Oh.
And now he's gone.
Don't stop talking.
Okay,
Keep talking, Chaz.
There you go.
Gotta get it out.
Yeah.
And they debunked all of his stuff, saying it was just compressed air, like he was like just doing like a fake trick, and he had all these pipes inside of his house and stuff. So weird, but he was into these alternate energies. And he was communicating with a guy known, who's the son of a Russian entomologist, a bug scientist named Viktor Gerbinikov.
Yes. Okay.
And Gerbinikov, well-known bug scientist in Russia, Europe, papers published, portion of a university named after him, known figure. In his memoirs, he wrote this one chapter about how he built a UFO one time out of the insect wings of heavy flying insects. He didn't specifically say bees.
Okay.
He actually said you could find this on a variety of heavy insects. Any like those palmetto bugs, the ones we have in Florida that can fly at you.
Probably like cicadas and like,
right.
This scarabs, things like that.
Anti-gravity panel
okay.
that covers their wings. And he supposedly gathered a bunch of those, stitched them together and put them in these boxes. Put a bunch of these boxes, literally stitched them together with like copper wire. He sewed them together.
Ouch.
Very strange. Well, the bugs were already dead. He was pulling them
off.
Oh,
got it. Okay.
And copper wire conducts anti-gravity, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Science.
Yeah.
Everyone knows this.
It's fucking science.
It's science.
So he put these in these boxes, and there's some really fuzzy videos out there supposedly of him testing these boxes, and he'll like tap it with a pencil and it'll fly up to the ceiling and kind of like bounce back down like a balloon. Again, who knows? Super grainy footage. They fake all kinds of shit nowadays.
Sure.
Who knows what that means? But supposedly he put a bunch of these boxes together and built a flying craft.
Okay.
And it was like a little pallet with handlebars, and it could take off and go incredible speeds. And interestingly, he said that when he was flying this craft, people would look up at what he was doing. They wouldn't see a little Russian dude on a flying pallet. They would see these geometric glowing shapes. They would see triangles. They would see circles, tic-tacs.
What?
Glowing, or the classic UFO shape.
And so what years is this experiments being done?
So again, in his memoirs, it's translated, it's only one chapter in his memoir, and the chapter's been translated from Russian to English
got it. Okay.
by someone anonymous. So it's the dates and stuff are a little murky, but it seems to be that these experiments were in the 80s.
Okay.
81, 82, 83, I believe.
Fuck yeah.
And so he was doing these, and he noted that the areas he would operate this craft, where he would land and take off, they started to be filled with this weird poltergeist activity. Like it would start to like fuck with shit, would start disappearing and reappearing in strange places.
Your wallet, your
perfectly
keys.
Circular holes would be melted into glass windows.
I love this.
Which is something that would pop up in Mothman and other paranormal cases, around the globe. He noted that on one occurrence,
obviously in Utah,
because he was using this to do his bug research. So he would fly out to these fields in Siberia and collect cicadas and things like that. And on one occasion, he put a larva in a test tube, put the cork in, put it in his pocket, flew the hour-long trip back to his lab, because he never wanted to go too fast on this thing. He said he could have just gone, he believed, just infinitely fast because of the weird effect he believed that it operated.
This is bizarre.
Well,
since it was just a pallet. Go ahead.
When you have the ability to essentially defy gravity in its truest form, and you're using something that actually has the ability to go through the ability to utilize the anti-gravity chambers that are within bugs, and or use their wings to maneuver at whatever speed you choose,
and the copper,
right? Because of the copper, that's the catalyst.
It conducts.
It's the catalyst. It's what conducts
Absolutely.
it. You have no speed limit. Like, you can go 55,
but
like,
you are in Siberia on a pallet.
You are in Siberia on a pallet. Yes,
though,
you're blowing wind and snow all over the fucking place.
That you just fall forward. You just fall forward forever.
Okay, so it's like
falling down an infinite.
So it's like
hole.
Superman, you know? The only reason why he learned how to
Yeah, there
fly
you go.
was because he was falling and he forgot how to like crash. Like he essentially forgot how to
Exactly.
crash into the earth, and so he just didn't, and he could fly.
Well, and since this guy was
Just
Russian,
like how he forgets he can turn back time just anytime he wants. Like there's no
Yes.
consequence to anything that happens
Yes.
in his world.
and because this guy is Russian, you know, and it was during like the 80s or 90s, he just got fashionable clothing from like the 1980s in the US.
Finally got denim.
So
Oh, yeah.
he's wearing
All
like a
of the
windbreaker
photos-
suit.
Oh yeah, that's
all
when
of the
that all
photos are
appeared.
definitely Siberia. You can tell.
I
It's
love
very
that.
bland out there.
I love that.
He finally got
so
blue
yeah,
jeans.
This larva, when he brought it back, it was a baby in his pocket.
Yeah.
Takes the hour flight, he gets back, and it's fully grown, something that would normally take a couple months,
Oh
according to
shit.
his story.
Weird.
So all of the UFO stuff, from the weird side effects to the image to the time fluctuation shit, all of it he lists off, which again, he could have just read the same books I've read. You know, it's not impossible. It's the 80s. He could
Yes.
have done it.
But at the same time, I've had personally enough of my own paranormal experiences that
Which we need to get into, but continue.
we will at soon we will, yes. But when they have occurred for me, like I've been in a haunted logger's cabin whilst I was out fighting fire. Like it was like seriously, we got a tour in the middle of the night, and I'm like, yeah, fucking dead people used to roam around this place. Like there's no fucking joke. Like no, that's legit. And I've seen spirits, I've talked with ghosts, and it didn't feel like it at the time, but when afterwards it happened, I'm like, holy shit. You know, and I know that these things are real. Like this isn't just made up shit. This isn't just somebody who's on drugs.
Oh, yeah.
This is legitimate fucked up shit, and fucked up's the only way that I can really put it, because that's the easiest way for somebody is like, no, that's fucked up. It's like, yeah,
It's
no,
the
that's
most accurate way,
fucked up.
though.
It's fucked up.
Because
But-
that's what's happening. Something's fucking up in reality. The algorithm that runs our reality. Again, we're using that simulation language.
Whatever
There's a
whatever
glitch.
we
There's an
whatever we
error.
choose whatever we choose to define it as, we still know that something is not quote unquote normal.
Right.
And there's been enough of it. It's just too many people, in my eyes, have ignored what has happened. And so from that, they block out. And so they think, oh, no, you're just full of shit. Or I was high. Or, you know, no, I was drunk. Or no, I was
Well, the
just...
Russian was drunk.
Or the Russian
you
was
know.
drunk, you
Yeah.
know? Or it's just, there's been too many things that have occurred in life
Yeah.
that you can't really deny it unless you choose to. Like,
Right.
and that's the key thing. And that's part of the reason why I appreciate a lot of the stories that, every single story that you have shared, is that this shit's fucking real, man. Like it's real.
I think Chaz
Something's
believes
going
you.
on.
I know.
He's basing his career around it.
I have a
Damn.
feeling that he does believe.
He's
me.
like, no, listen to me, Chaz. This shit's real, okay? Yeah.
Well, again, so I'm tossed up on Gorbanikov because again, it's too good of a story. And we want to believe a good story, right? That's what history is. It's just the best story.
Have there been good stories written about it? Or are you just basing it off of his memoirs and stuff? Has there been like good
So
books?
it's basically just this information out there. So there are some other people online in their own corners in the net who have seized it and have kind of used it. There's this whole dude who
Probably from
claims to be
Gainesville.
a reptilian alien.
Mhm.
He thinks
I
he's a
love
reptilian alien.
I love reptilian stuff, especially when it comes
Oh,
to
my
like
goodness.
the monarchy and stuff. The queen
Yeah.
just died. The queen
it's
just
fun.
long live the queen,
he's a
right?
good
Okay.
one. He's betrayed the other alien reptilian.
So you know what's
I just
you
saw
can
the-
trust him. He's a good one.
Hold on. So I just want to say, like, this stuff is so. I'm all about. I love conspiracies. I love the weirdest shit, right? And I'm game to all of it. I'll change my mind either way. Doesn't really matter. But I get so much flack from people. They're like, why would you even consider that? I'm like, why wouldn't I? It's fun.
Are we
It's
talking about the Queen?
all
Yeah.
the things.
Okay.
All the things.
I just saw
Flat
the
Earth-
best. I just saw the best tweet ever, and I told the guy. So somebody created a profile that said Queen Elizabeth II.
Okay.
That was the profile.
Yeah.
And it said, "Hey guys, I've got some information that'll send Hillary Clinton to jail."
Okay.
And then that was the end of it. And I was like, "Sir, you get all of the points." Yeah. And he said, "Thank you."
You
So-
fucking win, dude.
Yeah. That was the best. I laughed so hard.
Well, what I was saying is like, I love all of it. So if it's like pedophile rings, not that I love pedophilia, but I'm just saying like, if it's like, if
clip
it's,
that,
yeah.
clip that one
Yeah.
for the intro.
Yeah.
It's more of
If
a
it's,
lifestyle than an actual choice.
Yeah, exactly.
so, but I'm saying, I love the, I
Move to
love the
Gainesville.
conspiracy theories. So if it's like elite pedophile rings, if it's like, if it's the,
Illuminati.
well, yeah, the Illuminati, the reptilian race, that's, the blue bloods or whatever. If it's flat Earth, if it's any of those things, like
Mhm.
cool. That
Feminism.
sounds.
Hollow
that sounds.
Earth, shout out Chaz.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, I want to be into that, but prove me wrong 100%. And I get so much flack for that. I'm like, it makes life more interesting.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't Bigfoot, Dogman, paranormal stuff, any of
Why
that stuff?
not?
Yeah,
Why
like
not?
I'm like, my life is boring. I have a 9 to 5, like whatever. Like, please, for the love of God, like give me a good conspiracy that I can fucking get behind.
Yeah.
Well, prove
We
it
all love a
wrong.
good story.
Prove it fucking wrong. Like seriously, prove it wrong.
Right,
If you
and
can prove it wrong,
They
it's
make
different.
you have to prove it right, but I'm like,
Prove
why
it
do I have to
wrong.
prove it right? Why can't you prove it wrong?
Prove it
Yeah,
wrong.
you just gotta. It's just a thought experiment. You don't have to live your life based off of the
100%.
conspiracy theories.
100%.
Some people have definitely not heard that piece of advice and probably need to though.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Or you base your career on it.
stepdads and stuff who have
Just-
been alienated.
just turn it 180 degrees, and it's an entirely different perspective that not too many people honestly think about. You just take it and you're like, but prove it wrong. Like,
Yeah.
you want me to prove it right? No. Prove it wrong. Like, seriously. Like, why not?
Why not?
Why not? But
why are you
But why
so
not?
sure of what reality is? Like, who bestowed that upon you?
There's
Well, there are some great proving it wrong though. Have you ever seen the video of the guy, the flat Earth guy, and he's doing
Dave
the Bedford level experiment, and he's using a laser.
Dave
He's
Weiss.
like,
No, I don't think it was Dave Weiss.
no,
Was it the one on
no, Dave
Netflix?
doesn't do the experiments. This was I saw it on YouTube. It was some kind of documentary. I want to say Vice because they do stupid shit like that, but it was probably someone else, maybe independent. And yeah, this guy, flat earther, he was like, I'm gonna prove it. If you can see the light in this hole, he built this whole
Yeah.
pallet thing, leveled it out. If you can see the light in this hole, that means
The Earth is flat.
And then you couldn't see the light, and he's like, okay, well, hold it above your head. You can
So
see the light.
Netflix-
It was curved.
So
And the guy's
Netflix,
just like, huh.
Netflix did a documentary in which they tried to do that and failed. But I have seen things on YouTube, and who knows? It's fucking YouTube. Who knows? But I've seen ones where they have actually achieved that, and it's super interesting. And like, I'm not 100% on the flat Earth, but I'm like, please tell me that the Earth is flat, because how exciting would that be? Like, that's where I'm at.
Well,
You know, I don't think it's necessarily flat. I don't think it's hollow, but I definitely think that
It
and I-
could be.
and
It could be.
I've expressed
hollow.
I've
It is.
expressed this is that whatever they're telling us, it's a fucking lie.
Yeah,
Like,
and I
they
kind
are
of feel
not-
that way.
They're
The
not telling us the truth,
the
no
quote
matter what
unquote
it
they,
is.
no matter what it is they're telling us, it's not the whole truth.
They don't want us to know. Like,
Well,
they
that's
want us to
certainly true.
believe whatever they tell us to believe, and you know, whether or not the and I don't honestly think that it's flat per se, but I do definitely think that
Our
we are
reality's
on-
different.
we are on a plane, and they're trying to make it so that we think that, like, we've been taught that it's a ball. We've been taught that there's potentially a whole civilization living within the crust of this ball that we live in, and or that's not real. And I don't think any of it's true, aside from the fact that what they're telling us is not the truth.
I'm pretty sure it's the Matrix.
It's fucking
Even
something.
Even if it's a God
fucking
Matrix.
something.
Even if it's a God Matrix, it's some type of Matrix. It's a video game program.
It's fucking
I
something.
definitely lean towards the biocentrism point of view, where it is kind of like simulation theory, but it's not. We're not plugged in by some robots on the other side.
Like we're not in pods.
We're generating. The brain is the computer that generates the simulation.
Sure.
And that's why everyone has different experiences.
Yes,
we all live in
100%.
our own realities.
So, Chaz,
And that's what.
when you have a second, I was just gonna ask, and apparently I just stole the second.
Yeah. Oh, when you have a second, let me stop you.
You got all the seconds.
So did you see? I'm just gonna go on my kind of thing here for a second. Did you see the Godzilla versus Kong movie?
Yes, I did. Of course.
Did you fucking love that?
I love the Hollow Earth.
When I watched that, I was like, dude, Chaz has to fucking love this. Even if I never talk to this person, I know that this is right up his alley, where there's vortexes within the crust of the earth that take you into a tunnel in which you open up into an entire world where there is no up, there is no down. Gravity is just all kinds of fucking weird. And there's a whole ecosystem within the Earth's crust in which, you know, like Godzilla's from it and Kong is from it and all of these creatures are from it. But, you know, I mean, I was like, fucking Chaz has to fucking love this shit. And I had to have a Superfan Dan moment there.
Did you like the movie,
no,
Chaz?
I love it.
Okay.
Though it is that kind of feeling when something you really like is getting popular and you're like, meh. You're like, nah,
You're all smug
I
and
knew about
shitty.
that first. There was a twinge of that. So, you know.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. It really is. And you know, part of me getting through life, the day-to-day, you know, on and on aspects of life is giving into whimsical. You know, I feel like, you know, like I want ghosts. I want, you know, I want mystery is what I want. And there's things to unfold. There's things to unpack. And you know, why not? Why not? And worst case scenario, I'm wrong. Who fucking cares? You know how often I'm wrong in my day-to-day life, in my day-to-day job, in my relationships, in everything, you know? It's just like, so what? So what? I was wrong. I will readjust. I will change my mind. But God damn, you know, you get these ultimate skeptics, these people that are like, I know what reality is. And it's like, you don't though. You really don't. And it's just crazy to me.
And it's an arrogance because people
so arrogant.
I walk down the street. Hey, I live in Gainesville, Florida. I walk down the street every day and see all kinds of homeless people living in realities that I'll never understand.
Yeah, 100%.
They're off somewhere else.
Dude, I've met schizophrenic people and I'm like, am I the crazy one? Like, dude, you're so sure. You are so sure. And that you have been denoted that you are schizophrenic, but at the same time, like, I can't argue with that. And like, I don't fucking know, you know?
Well, and anyone who does a heavy dose of psychedelics knows that you can, as above, so below. Whatever you fuck with in here can definitely fuck with shit out there.
100%.
Even
absolutely has that
a
effect.
decent amount of psychedelics. It doesn't even have to be heavy. It just has to be a decent
just get real
amount
If
of
you're open to it,
psychedelics.
dude, if you're open to it,
Yeah.
dude, I've had
You
some
can get
trips
real stoned one night when you're 15 years old. You listen to some Pink Floyd, and boom, dude, you're there.
Or Mastodon.
I feel like this is
Whatever your
personal.
vote, man.
I feel like this is personal. So Mastodon is the modern version, the modern metal version of Pink Floyd. We all know this. But yeah, Pink Floyd, like in high school and doing psychedelics, like I have been catapulted to alternate realms, and it's magic. It's like, No, I get it. Like you have those blips of like, it makes sense, you know? And so coming from that, you have to question everything and and at the same time accept everything. You know? It's like,
Yeah,
I don't fucking
yeah.
know. I do not know.
Well, the best thing you can do is be empathetic to other people's realities.
I love
you
it.
can try to understand them.
Yes.
You're never going to understand them, but you can do the best you can to try. You know,
Unless they're from Gainesville.
Yeah, once they're from Gainesville, all bets are
too,
off.
too bad.
All bets are off.
Go Gators, man!
You've
Fuck
got
you
you've got a
guys.
point there, Steve. You've
Fuck
got a
you
point
guys.
there.
Yeah. Just kidding.
So we've gone over our time, but I want you to hit anything that you want to hit. Is there anything particular that you haven't expressed? It's kind of been all over the place because we're excited and there's just so much.
Mhm.
Is there anything you want to hit?
I didn't have a list or anything. No, not really.
I know you didn't have a list,
Like
but
the petition. Go sign the petition, please.
no,
That's
and
my
so I shared it on
main
the
goal.
chat. I'm gonna share it on Instagram for you.
Yeah, and we'll put it in the comments
Please,
of the.
please.
of
But
Yeah.
the-
I would love. I honestly think we should all go in and buy it. Honestly, because I really want to
the castle.
investigate it.
Let's do it.
Yes, I think we
The
should.
podcastle.
I'm also
The
gonna throw
podcastle.
I'm also gonna throw down to my buddy who actually lives in Florida and have him petition, try and sign the petition as well. I'm talking to him tomorrow.
Yeah, his name's
So-
Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, you know, he didn't kill himself, so
Well, good.
But
He
he's a
might have
ghost.
some
He's a
money
ghost.
for us to buy this house.
Yeah,
Oh
100%.
yeah, but it's gonna get weird there.
Secret tunnel already.
There's
included.
tunnels
There's a
already
tunnel to build
included.
one.
Like,
Yes.
what's not to love?
Yeah. Well, so you've got 2 books. They're available on Amazon.
I'm looking.
We have
It's a place between time and space.
So-
and paranormal expeditions hunt for the friendship.
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, you can find links to all that stuff at my website too, ChazoftheDead.com. You can find my articles I write, podcast appearances, books, all that stuff.
Hell yeah.
Chaz content.
And what magazine?
yeah,
do
you
write
guys
for?
can follow me at ChazoftheDead on all the social medias, any of them. I'm there.
Yeah, his Instagram's really
yeah.
good.
And what magazine do you write for?
Paranormality magazine. I got a shirt on. Check them out, especially if you like any of the stories I was talking about. Community-based project. They're supporting all kinds of great paranormal stuff, not just the Betts House petition, but all kinds of creators, writers.
Do they do a
figures, and people from all
physical?
over.
Do they do a physical magazine?
Yep.
They can
yep.
subscribe
in
to?
print and
that's
on
awesome.
digital. Yeah. I was on the
I love
cover
it.
this month, September.
Ooh.
Fuck yeah! Oh my
Goatheads.
god! I didn't even
dude,
know.
now I have to get it. Now I have to get it.
Yeah, I have one around here somewhere.
All right.
I'm gonna get a back
Should have
catalog.
had that for the thing.
You know,
Um,
I might have Roma hit you up to see if you can hook me up with a copy of that. I will totally pay for it. That's fine. I'm totally down about it.
That's fucking sweet.
I would
Signed
also-
copy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would also just like to say, Chaz, it has been an absolute pleasure to meet you and actually talk to you more than just listen to you. And believe me, I've listened to you a lot here on the show. And it's just fantastic to actually interact with you, and I appreciate your time, and I'm very thankful for it, and I'm glad that you are
yeah.
open and that we are open. And it's just thank you so much. I appreciate it so much.
You're a killer guest, and
Please
we love
come
having
back.
you on. Yeah.
Please come back.
Anytime, guys. It's always a blast. I always have a good time, full
Excellent.
of laughs.
Excellent.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
So thanks for joining us, everybody. You can check us out, download us on all major podcasting platforms. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us there. Also, we are at the Sensible Sociopath Podcast on Instagram, and then you can follow me on Twitter at Stephen Paulcast.
And we also have the sensiblesociopathpodcast.com where you can get our merch. We have shirts, socks, hoodies. It's going into, and of course the Charlie Cat mugs. You know,
Big seller.
and you can get our merch there, and we'll have some extra content here at some point. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but of course, it's the sensiblesociopathpodcast.com, all one word. don't think that if you don't find it, it's all there.
Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night, Chaz.
We love you guys.
Podcast.
Oh yeah, anytime, guys.
The world would not be the same.
I like it.
No wonder my anxiety's so high.
People laughed. Few people cried.
Oh, what's in the box?
Most people were silent.
And that was it.
Now I am become death,
Sounds like a bad time.
the destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, so this doesn't seem like a great idea to me.
I suppose we all thought that, one way or another.
You didn't tell me any of that. That's crazy.
Well, Rama, when you're a hero, you don't tell everyone until you're on your podcast.
I'm about to hear some shit.
We all need to laugh.
I think just sitting down and, listening to...
The Sensible Sociopath. This is the shit you're supposed to be watching.
Gen X is gonna love it. Millennials are gonna be like, I'm offended.
You have offended me.
Also, my dog has a giant dick.
Oh my god, that's enormous.
I love it.
It's still a racist dog whistle.
Where you kind of have like a rotating cast of characters.
We're talking baby seals, eagles, wolves.
I'm just glad we're not going to have to eat with racism anymore.
It's worse than the butthole.
We're technically considered propaganda.
It is very contagious.
I think we really need to talk about environmentalism.
Like, are they studying pine cones?
Make yourself a nice stingray omelet. That's how Steve Irwin died. Cholesterol.
It's fucking delicious.
His father had ended up killing his mother and committing suicide.
In that order?
That's diabolical. I like it.
They had an apple gun where you could shoot Bigfoot.
Has she always been retarded?
I mean, she could have had a head injury.
You don't know anything about tartar sauce.
He had picked up a 400-pound statue and was like walking around with it.
Was the statue racist?
I'd like to think so.
It's like how they invented bacon and avocado to make a turkey sandwich tolerable.
I have a fear of fire.
Like a werewolf? Daniel, you've been our greatest viewer. Well, Daniel and Sarah and Katrina.
Daniel!